John.
Angie.
What's your best quality as a coach?
I'd say that my clients always know exactly what to do after a coaching call, so getting people to take action, that's my best quality.
Your clients always know what to do at the end of a call?
Yes, Angie, always.
How is that?
Because I tell them exactly what to do on the call.
Wait, you do what?
Let's start the show.
Oh my God.
That's just what I do, all right?
Okay, whatever.
Welcome to the Coaching Clinic with John and Angie, the show for professional coaches that explores the ins and outs of coaching, from working with clients through to running and marketing your coaching business.
If you're a professional coach who's committed to your own personal and professional growth, cares about making a difference, and wants to have a successful coaching business, you're in the right place.
My name's John Ball.
And I'm Angela Bezignano.
Between us, we have over 50 years of coaching experience and best practices to share with you. From getting started to scaling up your business.
We know what works and what doesn't, as well as what it really takes to have a successful and thriving coaching business.
With new episodes every Wednesday.
Make sure you're subscribed to get them fresh. This is really interesting. I love, this is probably one of my favorite topics because I think there's a lot of debate here on what actually makes a good coach. Are you born a coach? Is it something that you learn? So I have some really specific opinions, but my question to you is, in all seriousness, outside of that intro, what do you think makes somebody a good coach? What are the traits that make somebody a good coach?
There could be a few different ways to look at this, but I'm looking at it very much from the perspective of what makes someone good as a coach. Not necessarily what makes them good or successful in the business of coaching, because I think those may be different things. But yeah, the actual qualities of a coach for good quality coaching may be a little different. And so I think they also can give a really big clue as to what the negative traits would be in coaching for a not so good coach. And so it is an interesting topic, something that I probably wish I'd really had a bit more insight to in my earlier days as a coach, because whether you're examining through this lens yourself as a coach, or you're thinking about whoever coaches you, because hopefully you have a coach in your life as well as a coach, these are important things to be thinking about. And probably I would say the top thing for me is the ability, it's between two things, but I'm going to say the ability to be fully present on a call with your client.
First of all, I have to say, high five and big hugs, because I love that you differentiated in the very beginning between traits and I forget exactly what word you used, but right, that there are things that we can do in our business to make us successful in business as a coach, but that doesn't always translate into who we are as a coach. I mean, you think it would, right? You think it would. So here comes the cynic. That is right. But I know some people who are very successful as coaches in terms of their business, in terms of their earnings and income. They aren't great coaches. And I sometimes scratch my head and go, how is that even happening? And I guess I say that a little judgmentally, but it really is the truth, because on the other side of that, I know some people that are newer to coaching that had left primary jobs, careers, and said, okay, I'm going to take my expertise and become a coach, that aren't doing so great, but they're really good at what they do because I've coached with them, right? How do I know? Because I've coached with them. So that's an interesting way to separate those. But in terms of the traits, I do have to out of the gate agree with you that that listening piece is always, I don't care what framework you're using, I don't care what topic you're talking about, you have to be able to listen. You have to be able to hold space. You have to. That is, and look, you were just about to breathe and say something, and what did I do? I stopped listening. So go ahead, please, John.
Okay. Thank you, Angie. Now, look, all I was going to say there is you have to have that awareness to be fully in the moment on the call with them, which means if you're distracted when you're on a call, and look, it's going to happen sometimes that you are, and you'll notice the difference in the quality of your coaching. And if you're trying to do other things whilst you're on a coaching call, other than perhaps your coaching notes, then also you're not going to be fully present on the call. So be there with the person listening intently, if you're able to do face-to-face and it's not just an audio call, because I think most coaching probably is Zoom or in person these days.
I don't.
You don't? You still do
I
just
don't
audio?
use Zoom. Yep, I actually do. I was going to say it and I cut you off, but I'm not being a good coach right now. But I prefer just the phone because it's not just me that gets distracted, right? Sometimes it's the client because they're like, hey, what's that behind you? Or I love your filter today. Or your hair is so pretty. Or geez, Angie, I didn't, whatever it is, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm able to tune into things, tone, energy much better without looking at them. And I know that sounds, there are people that are going to come at me and go, Angie, how is that possible?
I
It just
get
is.
it because
Yeah.
I've done so much voice only coaching over the years
Mm-hmm.
that I totally get it. And I do not personally feel that I need to have the video there for the connection.
Mm-hmm.
However, it does seem to just be the industry standard that we use video
Yeah.
now. So I have
Yeah.
no objection to audio only coaching calls. It's like now we're in an primarily audio only format, although we are
Yeah.
moving into some video elements of that. I just don't think it's super important. But that ability to tune in and to do things like hear the tonality, to notice what may be going on for someone, or listen to the silences that are coming up, not
Mm-hmm.
just as people are thinking, but also as they're maybe trying to find a way to put things or say something that's going to be a little uncomfortable for them. Have to be really tuned into all of that. So it's interesting that you said being present, but you said listening, and I don't necessarily see those as exactly the same thing, but they're definitely related. For me, the being present thing is not thinking about what you've just been doing before the call, not thinking about what you're going to be doing afterwards, just being there with your full
Yeah.
attention, as full as you can give it to the
Absolutely.
client that you're talking with. And I do feel that that isn't just a great coaching trait, that is also a great personal trait to be able to be
Absolutely.
fully present with people in your life.
Well, we hear about that all the time, right? Like
Yeah.
around the holidays, I remember somebody sending me something like, the best present you can give is to be present. Haha. Right? I
Yeah.
get the play on
Good,
words
nice
there a little
cliche.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is, but you know what? There is truth in that. And it's interesting because I was actually training a coach once and I was listening in. So as I was training, I was literally, there was no visual. I was listening in on the call. Everybody was aware. It wasn't like a big sneaky thing. And all of a sudden I hear click, 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 click. And I'm like, what? It was a very specific sound. And it was somebody beating an egg.
Yeah.
And it was the coach, like beating an egg. They were having the session while they were making their breakfast. And I was like appalled. I was like, I lost my mind. Not in the call, of course, but
Yeah.
when it came time to rate that, the way I had to do it through our system and rate that. And I was like, no, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And if you're worrying about how you're scrambling, and then you could hear the popping of the butter or the oil, and you could hear it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So very unprofessional. How would you feel if you found out, you couldn't see it, but if you found out that your surgeon was like on his phone talking about his lunch order while he was doing open heart surgery? Now, again, that might be a pretty extreme comparison, but I'm just saying, don't laugh. I'm telling you the truth. Magic.
It's making me think of a client that I used to have. He'd book our calls first thing in the morning. I was the coach. For me, fully present, audio only coaching. But he booked his calls for as he was waking up in the morning. So he's still coming to, he's making his coffee. So I'm
Oh,
hearing all that going
no.
on. And the first pee of the day, he would take me into the bathroom with him whilst he was having a pee and keep talking. And of course, I don't know if he thought that I couldn't hear this, but anyway, don't do that. Don't do it to your
No.
coach. And if you are a coach, really, don't do that. It's not
No,
good.
I mean, it's just awful. It's listen, people want to feel when they're on a call with you, however you're doing it. I actually reserve like when I do group coaching, I do quite a bit of it that I do on video, right? It's a lot easier. Herd the cats a little, by keeping the visual. But the one-on-ones I still do in my private practice, I still do on the phone.
Yeah.
But I think that we have to remember what a client needs from us. And I think the second piece for me, besides the being present, is not being judgmental,
Yeah.
which I have found in recent years, the climate of the world is changing, and I'm not here to talk about all of it, but regardless of whether it's like religion, it's like the things you don't talk about with your friends at the table or your family because you know it could be like a powder keg, probably should not be happening right within your sessions either. You have
Mhm.
to like, doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah.
unless they're talking about something that is so ethically, hey, Angie, I want to start killing people for a living. Like I'm, again, going extreme. Okay, so that might warrant a little bit of a different approach.
And what are your
But
rates? Sorry. Yeah.
you ass, heck is wrong with you? You stupid. Don't listen to this man. Do not look at the man behind the curtain. But truthfully, I think the one thing that coaching has brought to the surface for me is the real idea of it takes all kinds. I have literally had people come into sessions and tell me very intimate things about their personal selves, their hygiene habits, how they identify. All right. And that's hot topic things that are coming up in more recent years, political stance. And I have had to make sure that I don't come with a reaction to, even if it's, oh, this is what I believe in terms of my marriage. It could be something that's not so hardcore and it could be a little bit more in the everyday. Somebody says, oh, I believe that a woman's place is in the home. Anybody who knows me, I don't subscribe to that.
Sure.
However, I have to remain out of judgment so that I can still coach them around what their belief is. It's not my job to go, well, gee, John, what do you mean women, their place is in the home? Doing what? Working out of their home office. I go, that's bullshit. I can't, that is not a good coach because
No.
I'm not there to make them be what Angie thinks they should be.
I
Do
think
you
that's
see what?
yeah, absolutely super important. I can very much relate to that. I feel that that's very much where I am. I always did my very best not. I mean, there's judgment and there's judgment. You know, we have to evaluate, and so in that
Mhm.
kind of place, there is some judgment. But in terms of moral judgment or ethical judgment, try to steer away from that. Like my feelings about someone else's beliefs, unless what they're saying, as you say, is so antithetical to anything that I
Mhm.
believe, it's like, oh my goodness, I am horrified. I cannot work with you. Uh,
Second.
and maybe that's happened once in all my years of coaching. That I would have to say to someone, I'm sorry, I absolutely can't work with you. But I mean, once, and that was the conversation. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to work with you. I don't think we're going to connect. No, not feeling a connection. I couldn't get past this person being really anti-gay.
Sure.
I just couldn't get
Yeah.
past it.
Right.
And I never would have got past that. But I have been on calls with people who probably didn't have super positive feelings towards gay people or my political stances. And people are pretty
Wait,
much
you're gay?
polar.
Sorry. It was a joke. Sorry.
Sorry about it. But people at like pretty
Mhm.
much political, polarized ends of the spectrum, and I've still been able to work with them and coach them because they're still people.
I was going to just ask you though, because I had this experience and I don't remember if it was within my private practice or when I worked for a coaching company, but I can see him clear as day, remember him. I never saw him, clear as day in my mind. And he was I don't even know why I was aligned with this person because I think it was within a different space working for a company because it was like he was assigned to me. And I was like, are they kidding? Do they know who I am? Because this person was very opposed to women being professionals. And it kept
Yeah.
coming up and it was like almost, well, kind of, he'd always he'd say something negative and then go, no, like you. I'm thinking, one more like me and you and I are going to go at it, buddy. So I had to remove him from my roster. I had to because I was being put in a consistent basis, on a consistent basis, I was being put in a position of having to control the idea of defending myself It wasn't like, and I tried well, let me ask you, so why is it that, what is it about women being professionals that is so XYZ for you? And why do they belong in the home? Like, honestly, and I had to have him removed from my roster because
Yeah.
I had nowhere to put that energy because it wasn't like a one and done. It was pretty constant. And I thought,
Yeah.
this isn't good. I cannot coach him to my fullest potential because this is now becoming personal.
Yeah.
It's not just a belief. It's like he's applying the belief to me within our session. So I think we also have to know sometimes when it's time to call it quits.
Let me ask you then, do you feel that it's an important quality to be able to, as a coach, detach your own personal feelings about things and situations and people to be able to effectively run your coaching calls?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll share this quick story. On the other side of that, I did have a client one time that and this was long before what was happening now was happening, identified as a female body part. And it was like first session right out of the gate. And I was like, I remember the feeling of, huh? What is she? What happened? But what I did was I said, so let me ask you this question, and that's fine. How will that affect our coaching? What is it you're looking for? And ultimately, it was nothing. It was just like, I need you to know this. And it was fine. It didn't affect our coaching. I didn't come into the session like with visuals of, oh, you're this and that. I didn't do that because the sessions were still very open and vulnerable and good. And it wasn't being imposed upon me. So I
Mm.
do think that I've done a fabulous job, if I do say so myself, right? Of being able to detach myself from my own beliefs, etc., so that I could still deliver for this person
Yeah.
because. But that one particular client, yeah, that I had to kick to the curb, it was because it kept being thrown at me like a little passive aggressive attack. And I was okay for session 1 and 2 and 3, and 4, it was like, you're out. I'm done.
Yeah, we all have a limit to what we can handle. But when I think back over the years, certainly religious clients is much more common in the US than in the
Yeah.
UK.
Mhm.
Religion isn't such a big thing in the UK. So I'm very used to working with people, mostly from sort of Christian denominations in the US, and even some that I would probably consider a little bit on the culty side. Now, I'm an atheist, so I don't believe in any of it. So my opinion on that isn't relevant. And I'm not there to disabuse them of their beliefs. That's not my purpose there. I'm there to see if
Right.
I can help them achieve their goals. Now,
Mhm.
unless if their goals were against me or super against my beliefs, I don't think I could. If someone came on a call with me and saying I'm trying to bring in legislation to ban abortion or something like that, I would like, yeah, I'm not the coach for you. I would know that I wouldn't want to be a part of that. And I would be upfront about that. But generally, it's really not. And the fact that we have been able to connect and get along, there is also a part of me that thinks if they did know what I was all about and more about my life, they
Ugh.
actually possibly wouldn't want me as their coach.
Right.
Do you
That's
know what I mean?
absolutely correct. And I think too that I think that's why we keep some limitations as coaches in terms of who we really are, because we don't want to be judged. We don't want somebody to assume that because I'm an atheist or I'm Catholic or I'm whatever I am, right? I guess the male female is becoming debatable. I won't get into that today. But in terms of other things that are not so obvious, I do think that it could impede somebody from making the right decision for them because they think Angie's Catholic, right? Well, I don't need to talk to a Catholic. On the
Right.
same side of that, if people know that about me, right? It's not in my bio. Angie is a Roman Catholic. Doesn't no. Or John, Angie is an atheist. No, that is not what I should be. Like somebody should just that should not be a decision piece for people.
Right.
So I am a little discerning about what I put out there publicly, which is important, right? But to
Yeah.
your point, like I think there might have been many clients that knew if they knew anything deep dark about Angie as the human, they might be like, what? Joking. But for them, it might be, she's divorced. How could she be a relationship coach? because I screwed
Right.
it up. That's how I fucked it up. Who
Ah,
better? I'm just saying.
and you understand enough and you're able to ask the right questions and help
Sure.
people get what they want in their relationships. We get
Yeah.
that. We had a chat before about bringing your personal stuff into, although it was very brief, bringing your personal stuff or life experience into coaching
Mhm.
sessions. We do it rarely, and we probably do it very limitedly, and only really if it feels totally relevant and beneficial to the client to do
Mm.
that.
Mhm.
We're not really there to have that conversation with them where it's like they should be hearing about us and our lives. And I have come across coaches who do that, who dominate the calls and don't even really give their clients a proper chance to speak and express themselves or say what they need to say.
Agree with you. I definitely agree. I think that's just hard in general nowadays. I think that just because we're talking about it, like judgment can be it can be something that pops up, but I also feel
Yeah.
like it's not for us to utilize our personal lives as validation for them, because I
Yeah.
do think that a lot of my clients have come in and said, "Angie, what do you think?" And I always say, "Wait a minute. It's not really about what I think. What are your thoughts? Why are you asking me that?" I will go right at that because I think I might have shared this with you in a conversation or in one of our previous podcasts. But I remember saying to a student that I was training, and I said to her, "You know what? We were doing coaching and I was training her." And I said, "That was great. Like, I really love that." And you know what her response was? "Well, I didn't ask you what you thought of me. You're judging me right now." And I was like, "What?" Because I associated in my mind
Yeah.
judgment as negative. And that was a very defining moment for me as a coach and thinking, I have to be careful about saying, "I'm really proud of you."
Yeah.
Sometimes I do. If somebody's like, they haven't cleaned their bathroom in 6 months, and this is true, and they were getting like staph infections because they had this like mental block, and they finally do it. And I'm like, that is so amazing. I'm proud of you. Sometimes I need to be a cheerleader, but I also have to be aware of saying to somebody, that is awesome, that it is this, it can be received as the same type of, it can be received as judgment, just
Yeah.
as negative, just it's positive.
No,
Mm.
I get that absolutely. And I do feel that as professionals, there should be an expectation to separate and compartmentalize our lives. Like,
Mhm.
okay, before I was a coach, I was a flight attendant. Did I sit on planes and talk to the passengers about my personal lives?
Yeah.
Only Shaka Khan, I think. I did that with her, but pretty
What?
much everyone. I know we got on very well. We're like that. Yeah, I know. She's lovely as well.
Sorry.
But other than me name dropping Shaka Khan, who is a delight. Um, yeah, no, that wasn't really. It was a lovely conversation, but I wasn't telling her all about my private life or all about
Mm.
my beliefs or what I do and don't believe in. It's like, it's just not appropriate. I'm there as a professional. I'm there representing an airline. As a coach, you're there representing your own business. Yeah, okay, maybe that's yourself. Maybe it's just you. Or maybe it's a bunch of you. Or maybe it's a whole big business. You are there
Mm.
representing the business. Who you are as a person is not so relevant. It's not irrelevant. Your weekend antics, your sexual fetishes, whatever, do not need to be shared or do not need to be shared on coaching calls. Hey, look, if you'd ever heard cabin crew having a conversation in the galley, you would know that everything gets discussed. And passengers do get to hear that stuff, but it's not appropriate. And I think that's the same in pretty much any professional situation. We have to show up as a professional. And I see this as being part of showing up as a professional in coaching.
I would listen, and I don't disagree with you at all. I think that is all very true. We have to create a little bit of a hierarchy, right? Within our sessions. We have to. It's not a better than or I am the all-knowing Oz. That's not what it should be. But people who come into coaching are relying on us to know a little bit about what the fuck we're doing. Just saying, I have to say that, folks. And sorry for the potty mouth, right? John might edit that out. But anyhow, but I do feel also, I will be honest, there have been specific times where it was relevant. I had to gauge it as the coach and say, okay, in my head, really quick, if I share this, why am I sharing it? What's the relevance to the client that I want them to? And listen, and honestly, sometimes it is about, I actually had somebody who was profoundly upset, depressed, angry, anxious about going through a divorce. And this is just one of many examples, by the way. And she was beating herself up like, I'm horrible. Who's going to listen to me as a coach? Because she wanted to transition out of her day job into coaching and blah, 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 all the things. And I
Mm.
was like, wait, pause. Is it okay? So I did do first, I asked permission. I said, would it be okay with you if I shared something personal with you? That is not to make this the Angie show, but that I think is relevant to this conversation. And she was like, yes, okay, that's great. I said, okay, well, I am divorced. You are? And the reason I shared that with her is because I knew she held me to a very high level
Mm.
and in terms of respect, and more to not be like, hey, now you're in the club, but more to illustrate to her that she could still be a high level professional, even though fill in the blank,
Sure.
whatever she was feeling.
I would consider that a high level sharing. Like, I've shared with certain business coaching clients over the years that I've had some disasters in business, and I've even shared some information about what those have been and how it felt and how I got through it.
Mhm.
But I haven't given them the full detailed story. I haven't given them
Sure.
how I nearly fell apart and turned into an emotional wreck. It's like that's not really as relevant to the story.
No.
They don't need all the juice, but they just need to understand sometimes they're not the only one in it, or that you maybe have some experience of what they're going through that maybe helps them to feel like, all right, maybe it's not just me. I'm not alone. That's all cool. So we have these things of, okay, what have we said so far? We've said being present. We've said listening. We've
Present,
said
judgment,
lack of no judgment. We've said
right?
a bit of detachment, some professionalism as well.
Yep.
I guess that's what we've come to. We haven't really used the word so much, but yeah, professionalism. What else do you think is
Another
important?
quick, well, yeah, I think this is, I want to make this a quick point because I changed a lot of the way I communicate from saying you. Well, John, you have this tendency. Sometimes I will say, you know what? We're all human, and sometimes we have a tendency. That is something that to me is a great trait, is that I'm relieving without the client even realizing I'm doing it. I'm relieving some of the burden of the judgment for them of themselves even. So I feel like sometimes how we communicate is really important. Somebody else
Yeah.
might not, but right, when I say you, it just comes at them at like this from this negative space. But I say, wait a
Okay.
minute, we're all human. And I'm definitive when I need to say, John, what are you doing about that? I'm not going, so what are we doing? That's not it. But I'm saying, like, do you know what I mean? When I present sometimes, if there's an overarching theme and there's judgment of self, which I have to pull clients out of pretty often, it's, well, wait a minute, we're all human. We all are imperfect.
Mm.
So
Here's a question for you. So I know you've had coaches yourself. I know you've
yeah,
worked with and trained other coaches. I've had those experiences too. What have been the things that have pretty quickly let you know whether you have confidence that this person is going to be a good coach or is a good coach?
when I'm training them, or even, so you mean the people that I've helped transition out, like clients?
Either when you're training people as a
Oh, yeah.
coach or when you've hired coaches yourself. What have been the things
Um,
that have let you know I'm in good hands here, or this person is good at what they do?
That's so funny that you ask, because I don't know if I ever really looked at it, but the answer just came to me. It's what their focus is. If their focus is on them, and it's hard for me to define all the ways that it can be about them, right? Like, I'm not sure I'm doing this right. I'm not sure of this. I don't know what, and it's more client focused. They may not have their bearings yet, but I know they can be taught the tactical side of coaching, which maybe we'll talk about, right? But I think that you mentioned something like, are people born to be coaches? I will tell you with 10,000% certainty that I believe that I was born to be of human service. I believe that.
Yeah.
It may sound a little woo-woo, but then I've been able to be taught framework to take my talent, like having an Olympian. They're born with certain, help me,
Choose
talents, certain
talent.
talents, right? that are just
Yeah.
natural and inherent. And then somebody takes those and fine tunes them. So I think that when I look at somebody and say, hey, are these, because the people I trained, they weren't guaranteed a position. So what
Yeah.
I thought really mattered, that was a lot of pressure. And that's what I guess I really looked for was what was their focus? Was it
Yeah.
on the client and doing the digging and being present? Or was it on, well, B, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, I get that. I maybe have a slightly different answer. I'm very much, when I hire a coach particularly, but I do look for a certain level of competence. Like I do want to really get that sense that they know what they're doing and they have some level of confidence and competence to be able
Mhm.
to deliver that. And if I feel they don't have that, that makes me a little uncertain as well about working with them. So I
Yes.
think those are important traits for a coach as well. So for me as well, like if I'm looking at hiring a coach, I want to I am going to ask them about their experience, not so much trait, but the fact if they're able to communicate their experience clearly and demonstrate their knowledge and talk about things that are incredibly relevant. I mean, one of the things that has really impressed me over the years, one guy I worked with didn't actually hire him as a coach, but damn, he was good. Was telling me something I was having a challenge with, and he created this whole story as a metaphor that wasn't about me, but it was so well put together in the spot. And oh my God, that is a real coaching gift.
Mm.
That's something I'm not so great at. I would love to be good at, but that was a real coaching gift. I'm like, man, I probably should have hired him as a coach, but super amazing
Well,
coaching
yeah,
skills.
I think certainly being able to illustrate, like coaching isn't always like the give, the take. We ask you a question, you answer the question. I think that there's the part of the gift is being able to see the overarching theme, which we've talked about, how to be bird's eye and still be present at the same
Yeah.
time. But being able to illustrate that to a client, illustrate something to them without you having to be, it's not always direct. Because sometimes, I'm a very visual person. I'm a very visual coach. I can't tell you how many times I've, metaphorically coached somebody, right? And I'm not saying that's exactly what you're talking about, but yeah, so that they can take that and apply it and knowing
Yeah.
which clients are going to be receptive to that. Yeah.
Probably only one more trait in my mind that is coming up for me has probably been the last one I would want to cover. And that would really be about being able to hold your clients accountable and actually being able to do that, like having the level of confidence and to some degree, maybe even assertiveness without it becoming brash or rude or mean or anything like that. But actually just being able to directly hold your clients accountable. Actually, no, there are two more. That and one that maybe should have come with earlier. And that sense that you really care.
I agree. I think that care is huge because I believe that people can smell BS a mile away, right? So if you're just tactical, I think people are going to have a harder time building rapport and trusting you.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. But you and I know each other professionally, right?
Yes.
And would you say that my reputation is one that it's like I have a bit of a reputation for being a little bit, the word isn't harsh.
Direct.
I am very direct and I have zero problem holding people accountable. But I never, ever, I've never done it. And I hope I never do it by accident. But I have never essentially shamed somebody. Holding somebody accountable does not mean I'm your mama. And if somebody says to me, Angie, I need you to hold me accountable, I will ask in what way. And if I even hear a hint of something that reminds me of a mom trait, I will flat out say, John, I will hold you accountable, but I'm not your mama, right?
Mhm.
You're not in trouble if you don't do the work. That's not going to happen,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, I am extremely direct.
Yeah, I think this kind of, for me, this naturally leads us towards conversations about coaching skills. But I think those are things we could probably spend specific episodes on rather than
Yeah.
just have an episode where we just say what those, we'd actually go through some specific coaching skills. I think that would be good. And we'll take a look at that. We'll decide which one we're going to start with. But this has been a fun conversation. You're
Oh, I
right.
love it.
It's been very interesting. And I think maybe we'll come back and do it again next time. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Give me more, baby. Give me more.
Well, we definitely will be back very soon. So look out for us next Wednesday. That's when the episodes drop. But in the meantime, do you have questions? Do you disagree with us on any of the traits of a coach? Or do you agree with us and want to let us know? Or do you have something to add to the conversation? Or maybe you have questions around coaching, coaching business, coaching habits, coaching traits that you'd like to ask us? You can leave us a voicemail. It's free to do. All you need to do is visit speakpipe.com/the Coaching Clinic podcast. Speakpipe.com/the Coaching Clinic podcast. You can find the link in the show notes. And it's free to do. Please leave us a message. And if it's good, we might just feature you on the show.
Yeah, I would love to start hearing a little bit more from everybody. Hey, what are your thoughts? New coach, coaches in training, veteran coaches? Would love to hear your input.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. So we'll be back again very soon. In the meantime, have an amazing week.
Bye-bye.